So the reflective reading today is a Buddhist blessing adapted, and we're going to use the bell. We send love to our ancestors for their wisdom and guidance. To all who suffer from illness or unrest, may they be at ease in their bodies and in their minds. To children and adolescents who are learning how to be in the world, may they know our love and carry it forward. To the animals and all the creatures on land and in the waters, may they be well. To our beautiful planet Earth, may we remember to care for the air and the water, that we may all be well. Amen. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today, in person, on Zoom. There are many things you could be doing on a fine Sunday morning, on a holiday weekend, and I'm so grateful you're here with us today. You heard my bio from Darylyn. There's no theological training here. I just have some stories from my life to talk about, and I'm grateful that anybody wants to hear them. So we'll talk today about practicing gratitude and joy. We'll start with a few basic Buddhist concepts that I believe are critical for everyone to understand. I personally came to understand some of these practices in a desperate need to cope with and eventually thrive in my daily life. Nothing we're going to talk about today is complicated in any way. Basic concepts, but not so often said out loud, which can be pretty harmful. I always start with the story of Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse. This is the story of the Buddha as told by Hesse. Siddhartha is said to have been born in the 5th or 6th centuries in present-day Nepal to a king and queen. His father sheltered him behind the castle walls from the harsh realities of life. He only knew luxury and comfort. At the age of 29, he ventured outside the palace against his father's wishes and encountered a sick man, an old man, and a dead man. He realized at that point that all of us, and I mean all of us, will deal with sickness, aging, and death. Now, why is it important to bring this up during a sermon about gratitude and joy? Because this is real life, and most of us have been outside the castle walls for a while now. We didn't have to go looking for our suffering. It comes to us and on the daily. So if we don't know how to deal with our suffering and just skip right to the joy, it will only last as long as this service. We have to find a way to be like the mother of 2 children. We must hold the hand of suffering and the hand of joy. So how do we deal with real life? Thich Nhat Hanh has 6 mantras, and for simplicity, I'm going to share 3 of them, and we will revisit them a few times. They are, I know you suffer. I'm here for you. I suffer, please help. And this is a happy moment. Out of the necessity to literally stay sane, I started attending meditation retreats when my kids were little. I was just really stressed with my job, my kids, my marriage, all the bills that needed paying, and everything else I thought the world demanded of me. I needed to try something different. My first try at meditation was a silent weekend retreat at Great Vow Monastery in Klatskanai. So what this means is that you show up at the monastery on Friday evening and get a short tour, meet everyone, and have a meal. And after dinner that evening, you don't speak again until lunch on Sunday. And the only speaking you hear is basic instructions and meditation guidance from the monastics. And this might sound like torture, because for some reason we think we have to constantly talk, constantly share our opinions, constantly give advice to others whether they like it or not, constantly judge what's right and what's wrong and who's right and who's wrong. And we have to stay vigilant and constantly remember why we're not speaking to this family member, which one wronged us at Thanksgiving last year, who hasn't sent us a thank you card or hasn't checked in with us when it's pretty obvious they should know we expect it. But the silence was just what I needed. I needed to stop talking and judging and just let myself be. I've attended many of these now. At one of them years ago, a teacher explained that our minds are like washing machines, always agitating. When we sit and let everything settle, what is important will rise to the top. And we know when we're ready to deal with what rises to the top and when we need to leave it alone. The moment she said these words, I knew what was rising to the top for me, and I knew that I was ready to deal with it. My sister had passed away years before this, and I had a tremendous amount of guilt about the time I didn't spend with her. We grew up together and had a lot of fun. We were similar in many ways, but there were also major differences. She was 4 years older and experienced cerebral palsy and pretty debilitating epilepsy. There was just always something going on with her medically, and it took a tremendous amount of time and energy from my parents. Being a child, my viewpoint was focused on how it impacted me. I had this picture in my mind of what fun it would be to have a sister with whom I was very close. We could share stories and clothes and sisterly advice, and I also thought that her differences reflected on me, and I just wanted to fit in. She had many accomplishments, including finishing high school, getting a job, and moving out, and these things were more difficult to achieve than anything I ever did. But she didn't get to learn to drive, go to college, get married, or have kids, as I did. I moved from the East to West Coasts, and of course, always thought that there would be more time to spend with her when my kids were older and didn't need me so much. Then she was diagnosed with breast cancer and had a double mastectomy, and was in remission and recovery. A few years went by, and she started to complain about back pain. And then the diagnosis that the cancer was in the bones, and she lived another 3 weeks. And at this point, we were used to dealing with cancer, but the end just came so quickly and unexpectedly. My mom called me at work and said, it's time to say goodbye. I was like, what are you talking about? I thought we had some time. I went to the stairwell for some privacy. I don't even know what I said. They gave me a spot in the program at her celebration of life. I guess my parents expected that I would talk about her and what she meant to me. But all I could do was offer a reading that I hadn't written. I knew I couldn't talk about her yet. It was a full year before I could even say her name. Tracy. So at this meditation retreat a couple of years after her death, I decided that I was ready. I wrote her a letter, and I took it to the woods where there was a Jizo garden. I wrote it all down, every regret, everything I wished I'd done differently, and I left it there with all the other remembrances, and I felt lighter. Great Vow has a Jizo garden in the woods behind the monastery. There are many little Jizo statues all over the woods. Jizo is the bodhisattva or guardian for women, travelers, and anyone at a crossroads. People come from all over and leave remembrances of loved ones who've passed away. Notes, garlands, little toys, and baby shoes in mason jars. And the woods are quiet and respectful, and they remember. Sickness, aging, and death. Many times we're shocked when these things happen to us. We just don't talk about these experiences because it makes people uncomfortable. And it makes us sad. But then we don't know how to process it when it happens. My parents died exactly 2 years apart. Mom in 2022, Dad in 2024. And it was easier to process because they were in their 80s, but still life-changing. I was honored to help Dad through his final weeks, just last year. He was still living at home and doing fine, waiting for an assisted living apartment to open up, and one day he walked outside to get the mail without a walker or a cane, and turned to come back inside and fell on the curb. He didn't break anything, but he developed fluid in his left knee, and that fluid was infected. 2 weeks in the hospital while they tried flushing out the fluid and clearing the infection, and no luck. And then the choice: major reconstructive surgery on his knee, including removing the kneecap, or go into hospice and let the infection take over the body. At age 85, in tremendous pain and exhausted in every possible way, he chose hospice and was relieved that it was an option. I knew it was the right thing, but this is something you can't undo, so we better be sure. I wondered whether I was agreeing to it because I couldn't imagine how I would get my dad through these surgeries and rehabilitation. We lived 8 hours apart, and getting there in the winter was sketchy, and it was just a lot. It was the orthopedic surgeon who described the knee surgery, and he was very confident in his ability to clear up the infection. So if we chose to go that route, of course, the generalist doctor takes a more holistic approach, and the generalist on duty that day was about my age. She was very direct with me, and she said, "There is no way I would put my 85-year-old dad through that kind of surgery." Thank you for speaking to me like a human. So we deal with sickness, aging, and death, and it was time to help him die. Dad and I had 2 weeks together in hospice, and we talked about a lot of things. And he had one request for me: be kind to the caregivers. He was very firm on this point. The first time he said it, I was taken aback, like, I am so nice. And why would you even need to say that to me? And I'm sure we all think that of ourselves. But of course, he knew that when we're stressed and when we're grieving, we lash out. And over those 2 weeks, there were times when I was getting very annoyed that the catheter bag wasn't getting emptied, or that the caregivers were sitting on the couch scrolling on their phones, and it's pretty tempting to say something hurtful. My dad wanted me to express what we needed without being hurtful. And this is a pretty important life lesson in any circumstance. Can I express what I need without being hurtful? I am in fact more likely to get what I need. I got to know one of the caregivers very well. She was 21 years old at the time and had pretty recently lost her twin sister to domestic violence. Maybe I'm not the center of the universe after all. Here she was spending her days with dying people, so gentle and sweet, and she came to my dad's funeral. Helping him through his death was pretty tough, but honestly one of the best things I've ever done. My dad, Roger, wasn't perfect, but he was a kind man. He was serious, quiet, thoughtful, and generous. He grew up working on the family farm, and he had a healthy respect for hard work, community, and service to others. My mom, Bev, was also generous and kind, but a totally different personality. She grew up one of 8 kids in a poor family. She was loud and loved attention. At a large family gathering, you knew if Bev had arrived because you could hear her laughing from anywhere in the house. There's a story that her beloved church friends still tell about her. She was working with her women's group to raise money for a cookbook and standing at the front of the congregation giving an announcement with a cooking spoon as a prop. And on her way back down the aisle, she was whooping it up and waving the spoon around, and in her glee, she hit someone in the face with the spoon. And this person was wearing glasses, which were broken. And everyone had a good laugh, I guess. And she loved to sing in church. She came to Christmas Eve service here with us one year, and we sang a pretty catchy song, and everyone was clapping to the beat. And she was, of course, the only person clapping to the offbeat. And we mentioned it to her in the car because we were so embarrassed. And she was sincerely convinced that everyone else was on the offbeat and not her. She believed in enjoying her life, and she never let any family or work drama get her down. If her sisters were fighting, she would give her advice and then just let it go. She was an on-the-floor grandma. When my kids were little, she would come and stay with us, and she was just doing whatever they were doing. On the floor with them, in their play kitchen, pretending to make dinner, building Lego houses, running Matchbox cars on the carpet. She was at their level, smiling, laughing, and enjoying every minute of it. And this is how my kids remember her. And while I spent the better part of my childhood, and especially my teenage years, being embarrassed of her volume and her lack of filter, I have decided that in my next decade, I will be more like Bev. She just had a good time. I don't think that Dad thought for a moment that he would outlive her. Mom was tiny, but she took up a lot of space. She had this tradition of baking treats for neighbors and friends for the holidays. It was like a cookie factory in their house. And Dad had to do the deliveries, and he didn't like it, or at least he said he didn't. And then that first Christmas comes and goes, and there's not one cookie. And of course, we were with him a lot, but it's not the same as having your bestie there with you every day, as she had been for 55 years. He did not fully appreciate her until the silence was deafening. So now the four of us, Mom, Dad, and Tracy, I'm the only one of us left on the planet. I've been processing death a lot. For a full year after Dad passed, I just remember being exhausted every day. Like I would get a full night's sleep, and in the morning, it felt like I hadn't slept in weeks. I didn't try to fix it. I just thought, okay, this is what it feels like. And my body feels better now. When it's daytime, I feel awake and alive. And I've decided how I will reorient myself in my new life as a 53-year-old orphan. I've decided that since I'm still here, my job is to live. This is a decision I'm making and something I need to remind myself of every day. I'm not waiting to die. I'm not passing time. My job is to live. My husband Paul and I have been married 31 years. Our anniversary is on Wednesday. He loves to work outside, chopping wood, trimming trees, building trails. He has a pack of mules, and I mean real mules. He takes them into the wilderness every summer to help the Forest Service clear trails. And this is where power tools aren't allowed, so they take two-person saws to clear fallen logs from the trails, and the mules pack in all the gear. A couple weeks ago, we were at home, and he was using his post hole digger on the side of a hill. He came in, and he said he thought he was having a heart attack. Severe chest pain, couldn't catch his breath. He was really scared. So we got in the car, we drove to the ER, and they got him hooked up to do an EKG immediately. After about 3 hours of testing and blood work, they said he'd pulled a muscle in his chest, and it could be treated with pain reliever. So this is great news, and now we know that his heart is healthy. But there's a point when you're driving to the ER and you think, okay, now everything is changing, and we aren't in control of this. Maybe he will die, and I will deal with another loss. Maybe he will live and have to give up a lot of things that he really loves. So we get a little more time, and our job now is to live. And so what does this mean, to live as an active verb? It means helping myself, my friends, my family through our suffering, and also finding joy in being alive. So back to the mantras. I know you suffer. I'm here for you. I suffer. Please help. And this is a happy moment. Finding the happy moments is a choice. Now, I know we can't do this every day. Some days are very, very hard. Some days we bury our parents. Some days we say goodbye to our sister over the phone. Some days we get a diagnosis that changes everything, and there is no going back. Some days we're going through a divorce. Some days our kids are really struggling, and our hearts are breaking for them. Some days we're overwhelmed with the stress of the world, and it's too much. And these are very difficult days in so many ways. Some days we lash out at others, or they lash out at us, and we feel wounded. And then there are some days when we can find a happy moment. My mom used to tell the story of when she was a young girl. She and her 7 brothers and sisters were packed into the pew at the Catholic Church for Mass, shoulder to shoulder, and one of them would do something silly to get the one next to them to laugh, and then it's like this chain reaction, so their shoulders are shaking like this, but they're stifling the noise, and they can't stop. And the whole row is laughing, but only with their shoulders. And they don't even know what's funny, and it's contagious, and it's wonderful. But that was considered pretty naughty, according to the adults. And sometimes I wonder, because of the thoughts in my head, do we feel guilty for having a happy moment? Have we been conditioned to believe that being joyful is silly or indulgent, or we don't deserve it? Do we think we need to constantly suffer? Joyfulness is a practice. Just like we have a practice of brushing our teeth every day, we need a joyfulness practice. And I mean that we need to make a plan rather than waiting for it to happen to us. And I know it's tempting to say that after XYZ happens, then we can be joyful. After the politics goes our way, after the next election, after we change this person's opinion on something, when we don't have to work for this manager or deal with this person, we'll be happy. As David Sedaris once said, I haven't got the slightest idea how to change people, but still I keep a long list of prospective candidates just in case I should figure it out. Nope, we are not in control of other people. And the political world has been pretty insane for about a decade. We will need to keep working toward freedom, justice, and liberation for all people and find joy at the same time. We cannot wait for permission to be joyful. We just need to start. So maybe on Sundays, we make a list of 3 things we'll do this week to practice joyfulness. So let's start now. Joyfulness practices are simple. We're not talking about booking an expensive vacation. Let's talk for a few minutes about meditation. And I'm sorry to do this because the only thing more boring than talking about meditation is doing it. But it's pretty critical to our mental health and to practicing joy. Most people don't like the idea of meditation. We'll just use the word breathing. So we're all breathing all the time, but most of the time we aren't aware of it. Our body is just doing it. There's a Buddhist story of a monastic who sat next to his teacher on the edge of a stream and complained that he was so bored of focusing on his breath, and his teacher slowly and gently guided the monastic's face down so that his face was fully in the water. And after a few moments, he was struggling, and the teacher guided him back to sitting, and he said, "How do you feel about it now?" So firstly, focusing on our breath reminds us that we're alive. We are literally breathing, and remember, it won't last forever. And when we're quiet and focused on our breath, we notice when a thought comes in our mind. and we let it go. And then we notice another thought come into our mind, and we let it go. And we can do this for even just 10 minutes, and our heart rate will slow down. And not only that, but we're training our minds. We're practicing how to notice what is in our minds, and we are deciding if that is a thought we want to hold or to let go. We start to notice when we're letting our mind fixate on things that have happened in the past, or letting it spiral with scenarios that haven't happened at all. And we can stop unhealthy patterns of thought. It also helps us to cope with very difficult circumstances. Another Buddhist saying is, I take refuge in my breath. Sometimes life gets so hard, the suffering is so extreme that we don't know if we can even handle it. And in these moments, we take refuge in our breath. We stop and we focus on the in and out of our breath so that overwhelming panic doesn't take over our whole bodies. So try it the next time you feel completely overwhelmed. Notice you are overwhelmed. Stop. Breathe. We can practice gratitude for simple things. Nothing about this needs to be complicated. Even on our most difficult days, we can remember, as Matthew Fox said, what a gift it is just to be alive, to be well, to be together on this planet. We are thankful to be alive. We are thankful to be together. Many of us are sitting in this room together, in the same room. Remember COVID? We couldn't be here, couldn't see each other face to face, couldn't offer a hug to someone who was suffering. But many of us are in this room together now. And we can go to the grocery store, and the kids are in school, and people go to rallies and concerts and sporting events together. We are alive together. We can sing. Leah Morris wrote the Hello song that we sang earlier. I learned it and many other songs from her this summer, but this one really spoke to me. It was like hearing a song that my soul already knew, and it was waiting for my body to relearn it. She told us that she sings the song with her daughter on the way to school. Wouldn't it be amazing to have a mother that sings a song about joyfulness to us every day? It's available on YouTube, and it's good if you listen to it, but every once in a while, just sing it. Feel the breath and the words move through your body. And if you don't like that song, just pick something else that your soul has been waiting for. And we can dance. Have a playlist of a few songs that really get your body moving, whatever that means to you. It's a good morning activity to help us feel alive. You can think right now about a song that your body really loves, and that can be the start of your playlist. You don't have to dance in front of other people. I do it when I'm getting ready in the morning, brushing my teeth and drying my hair, because I have to do these things anyway. We can go outside, look up at the trees, watch the leaves fall, notice the sky and the clouds, listen to the birds at sunrise and sunset, the world's first music. If there's any sun, feel it on our face. And I know there are other things we like to do, hobbies, music, sports. Let's just do them. Book a time at the racquetball court or call a friend to go to lunch. There's a practice in Buddhism called hugging meditation. And of course, you need permission from the person you're hugging. And when you're hugging them, you can say, "Thank you for being alive in my arms." Another meditation is called smiling practice. Just make it your practice to smile for the whole day. And when you forget, just do it again. It's very powerful. Serving others is amazingly joyful. Reach out to someone who might be lonely or who you know is going through a difficult time. I know you suffer. I'm here for you. And if we rally and advocate for an accountable and ethical government that works for the people, it is more joyful when we do it together. And we can have gratitude when others are helping us, which is, by the way, all the time. A few weeks ago, we had a pretty big windstorm at our house, and we lost power at about 5:30 p.m. And a lot of times it's just a flicker, or it goes out for a minute. And of course, I was hoping that someone at PGE would just flip the master switch and the lights and the heat would come back on in full force. And it was hours and hours. And it's dark and it's getting cold in the house. And it's pretty easy to get aggravated. Like, what are these incompetent people doing? And then when I shift my thinking, I notice it's an atmospheric river out there. Very windy with heavy sideways rain. So I can think about the persons who have to go out there and fix this. They're getting sopping wet in the pitch blackness, maybe up on boom lifts, doing very dangerous work. And I can just lay in my bed with my dogs, a flashlight and a book, and I can say, thank you for helping me. And we can do this practice for this community. Each of us is at different stages with this community. Maybe some are here for the first time. And if that's you, we welcome you with our whole hearts and hope you will come back. I first came here in 2010 when my kids were 7 and 8 years old. I'd been raised in the Lutheran church, and at some point I just realized I was kind of going through the motions. So time to find a new religion to guide me on my path, and I turned to Google. And I searched for churches that have a reverence for the earth, and the UU Church was the only one that came up at the time. And so I came here with my kids on a Sunday morning, and we sat over by those windows, and we had an amazing time. And to my surprise, my kids decided they wanted to go downstairs after the time for all ages. And Sarah Clough was the director of religious exploration at the time, and she found me during social hour and asked if I wanted to get the kids registered for RE. And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. And we've had such a great time here, and we've learned so much. And I've served on a lot of committees, and I've been on the board multiple times, and I've seen how much work it is to run this place. And I've had some difficult experiences through my board and committee work, hurt feelings and exhaustion, and then it's time to breathe. And then things change because we apologize and we begin again. And that's what being in a long-term relationship means. And we've had so many fun times. Worship services, New Year's Eve parties, Halloween parties, soup Sundays, even committee and board meetings are fun. And when my mom died and my dad 2 years later, it's easy to decide that you're alone. And yet here were all these people from this congregation texting, calling, emailing, sending me cards, inviting me to dinner, to concerts, and into their homes. Because that's what being in a long-term relationship means. I know you suffer. I am here for you. I suffer. Please help. So whether you've been here a day or several decades, it is appropriate to thank the ancestors who came before us and those who are sustaining it now. Those who bought the building and then the parish house, and those who take care of it every time the basement floods, or the roof leaks, or the furnace goes out. Those who pull the weeds, mow the grass, plant the flowers. Those who make the coffee and the cookies. Those who adorn the chancel and stain the pews. Those who make worship happen every single week, in person and on Zoom. Those who plan events and make a dish for the potluck. Those who serve on committees, review the financials, plan out the fire drills, and give to the second harvest. Those who reach out to us when we're suffering. Those who give their time for the kids, so that the children and adolescents may feel our love and carry it forward. This is real work. I'm grateful to each of you for putting in the work, a lot of which I don't even know about. Thank you. And I'd like to say that I could not be more hopeful about our future than I am right now. And I mean this sincerely. The minister, the music director, the accompanist, the RE coordinator, and the office staff are just off the charts talented, and it will make a difference. I love each of you, just as you are. And whether you need someone to honor your suffering or you're looking for someone to share a joy, I am here for you. We cannot wait for someone to allow us to be joyful. So my beloved friends, May we be at ease in our bodies and in our minds. May we offer one another love and support. May we advocate for those whose rights are at risk. May we have gratitude for those who help us. May we seek out joy. May we be alive. Amen. And now,